Samsung may be releasing their S10 5G phone sooner than expected, new 2020 iPhone lineup, as well as Apple News breaking records. Let's get into it.
A little over a month ago, Samsung released their S10 lineup. This came with 4 phones: the S10e, the S10, the S10 Plus, and the S10 5G. The first 3 phones are now available and you can purchase them today, but the S10 5G is coming later this year. Some of the cool features that we saw, some of the innovations that we saw with these lineup is the Infinity O front-facing camera, tons and tons of additional storage, as well as their ultrasonic fingerprint scanner, and full HDR 4K video.
When they announced the S10 5G, there was no clear specific date of when it was going to be released, except they said it would be released at the end of April. With Huawei releasing the P30 as well as the P30 Pro, we can expect Samsung to release their S10 5G model a lot sooner because they are worried about Huawei taking the #1 spot.
Do you think they're getting nervous about Huawei?
Maybe a little. I mean, Huawei's come out with a lot of pretty cool phones this year.
Yeah, they've unveiled their Mate X, which is their foldable phone, competing against the Galaxy Fold, and now they have these devices, which are very, very good. So Samsung last year actually sold the most units at 75 million, which is about 21% of the total units sold. And coming in second was Huawei with about 15 or 16% of units sold. They are coming up close to surpassing Samsung. And I'm sure Samsung is getting nervous about this. One of the main differences we saw between the S10 Plus and the long-awaited S10 5G was the camera setup on the back. So the S10 Plus has 3 cameras. It has a 12 megapixel normal lens on the back, or the wide angle. It has another 12 megapixel telephoto lens and a 16 megapixel ultra wide lens. And the 5G has a 4th sensor. It's called the time of flight sensor.
It's supposed to help with low light photography as well as quicker autofocusing and a new true depth sensor built into it. Another cool thing about the 5G is that it's going to have a 6.7-inch dynamic AMOLED display featuring a resolution of 1440 by 3040, which is the same as the S10 Plus, which is only on a 6.2-inch display though, 6.4-inch display. It's also going to have a bump up to 4,500 milliamp hours of battery life, only 8 gigabytes of storage. Well, I mean, compared to the S10 Plus, which has 12 gigabytes, that's a big difference.
With this new 5G technology, this is capable with the Snapdragon X50 chip. This will allow 5G to work, but also on the S10 5G, it has a Snapdragon 855. We were expecting the S10 5G, and it was rumored to come in at about 1,500 American, but this isn't really true anymore. People are expecting it to be a lot less since we saw a downgrade in the RAM and so on.
Yes, it's supposed to come in at $1,200 for the baseline model, which only has 126 gigabytes of storage. We're expecting this to be released April 5th.
Like this week, Friday.
Yes, on this Friday, which is pretty exciting. The iPhone 2020 lineup is supposed to have a new and improved OLED panel. It's supposed to be all OLED from the iPhone XR successor to the iPhone XS Max successors.
This was according to DigiTimes, who said they have a source within Apple's supply chain department in Taiwan who provided this information.
At the beginning of 2019, the Wall Street Journal actually confirmed that Apple will be dropping all LCD panels in favor for the new OLED panels. With the feature of all new OLED panels, there's going to be 3 different sizes for the phones in 2020, which is going to be different and will come in sizes of 5.42 inches, 6.06 inches, and 6.67 inches.
So these screen sizes are something that we haven't really seen before, except for the 6.06 inch. When you look on apple.com, you can see the screen size for the XS, XS Max, and XR. There is very little difference between the 6.1 inch and 6.06, and that's because Apple actually rounds to the nearest 1/10 of an inch. So this device is actually going to be 6.1 inches likely.
It's probably better for marketing.
Yes, definitely.
We are expecting the largest iPhone to be made in 2020, featuring the 6.67-inch OLED panel that is larger than the iPhone XS Max that is out today.
Which is, like, it's not just a little bit bigger, it's significantly bigger.
It's 0.3 inches bigger, which is pretty big when you look at the screen. Look at that.
So this is the XS Max, and if you add a little bit of space on the diagonal, it's going to be that much bigger.
That much bigger.
So to me, that might be too big for me.
You are a big guy, Nathan.
But just holding that device, like if I'm trying to use a phone with one hand, it's not as comfortable. Moving on to the smaller device, the 5.42 inch screen. This is something that Apple hasn't really done before. Most of the times they actually increase the screen size, but here we are seeing that they're actually decreasing the screen size. It's rumored that this 5.42-inch screen will be the successor to the 10S phone, which will make it smaller from 5.8 inches to 5.4 inches. Digitimes actually reported that the 5.42-inch screen will have a different screen than what we've seen before. They will either go with Samsung's display Y Octa or LG's display TOE Touch technology. This capabilities, if they use the Y Octa screen, it's a flexible AMOLED screen and will allow the phone to actually be thinner. We know that Apple has tried to continue to make the phone thinner and thinner, like we saw when they removed the headphone jack.
Yeah.
So these two screens will also allow them to decrease the price of the display.
A lot of people do want a smaller phone. Like you said before, people do not like manhandling a phone that is larger or too large for their hands, which is why the iPhone 5S was such a popular option.
Personally, I think that this is a move for Apple to kind of further decipher between the 10S and 10X Max. There is very little difference between the two. It's only the battery and the screen size. So if they add this kind of like a lower end flagship model for people who don't need the big device and with all of the features, it could be more attractive to that market.
Isn't that what the 10R is though?
10R is, I feel like it's even a lower grade. So you're gonna have like 3 distinct classes as opposed to one class and or as opposed to 2 classes.
I think Apple's gonna do the same thing that they did with the 10S and 10S Max, where the difference is only in the screen size.
And the battery.
They're just going to make, but they're just going to make one a lot smaller.
So we do know that the 2019 iPhones will have a jump in battery size. The 10S successor will have about a 20 to 25% jump. The 10S Max successor will have a 10 to 15% jump. So they are increasing the battery, which I think a lot of people wanted in this year's lineup.
Longer battery life is always good.
Yes. Moving on to the Apple News subscription service. The New York Times reported that over 200,000 people signed up for the service within 48 hours of them launching at the event on March 25th. That's an incredible amount of people.
Which is more than what Texture had at their peak back in 2018 when Apple bought them out.
So for those of you who don't know or who haven't been keeping up with the Apple News Plus is a subscription service that gives you access to hundreds of magazines as well as paywalled news sites like the Wall Street Journal and Los Angeles Times.
Like with any other subscription, you do get a 30-day free trial, so we don't know how many of those 200,000 subscription users are actually just going to cancel after 30 days.
Me personally, if I was going to sign up for this service, I probably would be one of those people to cancel just because I don't want to pay that much for a service if I'm not really going to use it every single day.
You do read a lot of books.
I do read a lot of books, but not a lot of magazines. So we do know that additional paywalled sites like the New York Times or the Washington Post refuse to join Apple News Plus because Apple actually takes a 50% cut of the revenue as opposed to what they would make with their own subscription service. New York Times monthly subscription service is about $15.99 a month. And so if they would drop that back to $5.99 a month, or sorry, $5 a month, they'd be losing profit.
Now, I don't know how many people actually pay for the New York Times or Washington Post subscriptions. I mean, you can just go to their website now and read their biggest articles.
But you have to pay for them. I think you get like one free article, but then after you refresh the page, then you have to pay for it, or you have to sign in, sorry.
Oh, interesting.
But the New York Times, Wall Street Journal, Washington Post, these are all like stapled websites that provide good news, good quality news that people want to get.
Is it biased? Yes.
Probably, yeah. I would say yes.
Those were all the rumors and leaks that we had for you guys today. The new S10, the new iPhones for 2020, and Apple breaking records. If you want us to look at anything, let us know in the comments below.
And subscribe if you're new.